Hi, Charles SirBookSage here, and this is a Winds of Winter theory video. In this one I'm going to focus on Jon Snow, and in particular on Jon Snow's resurrection. So now there's a lot of theories about how this resurrection might take place, so I kind of wanted to go over some of the ones that I've heard and what I would like to see in terms of how his resurrection goes down. The expectation is he will be resurrected. The character is pointless without being resurrected. And the main theory is that Melisandre is at the wall, so she's going to do it somehow, which is what they did in the show. In the books, she doesn't ride to Winterfell with Stannis and then, exit stage left when everything goes wrong. Stannis leaves her at the wall, so she's there. I don't know how she can resurrect Jon. Thoros of Myr, he's a red priest, and he resurrected Beric Dondarrion over and over, but Melisandre doesn't have this power. She's never shown any inkling that she can do this, but you would expect that if someone is specifically going to do it, it would seem like she makes the most logical choice. If so, I can't see her doing an Alakadabra Alakazam resurrect like she does in the show, because that's kind of silly. That's not her way. It's not her style. It's not how she uses or wields power. She's more into blood and sacrifice to get her goals accomplished. The issue there is she would need king's blood, and she doesn't have any king's blood. Now, she thinks she does because of the baby she believes is Mance Rayder's baby. She might try to sacrifice that baby, or use the king's blood of the baby to then resurrect Jon. The problem there is Jon swapped the baby out. He convinced Gilly to take Mance's son and leave her own son, Craster, Gilly's son, there to pass off her own son as Mance's, and then to take Mance to get the son away from Melisandre, because Jon is obviously opposed to blood sacrifice rituals. He's not for them. Now, Jon made this swap with the belief that he'd be alive and be around whenever Melisandre goes to try to sacrifice the baby, that Jon would then tell her, hey, I swapped the baby out. That's not Mance's baby. No king's blood. No point. But Jon's dead. So if Melisandre tried to use that baby and sacrificed it, would the ritual even work? Would it even bring Jon back? And if it doesn't, then how does she bring Jon back at all? I do think that Melisandre might sacrifice that baby thinking it's Mance's. The sacrifice will fail, but I don't think she's going to do that here to try to bring Jon back. I think there's going to be some dire circumstance later, like maybe the wall coming down, where she's going to sacrifice that baby. It's not going to work, and then that's what's going to lead to the sacrifice of Shireen. Because right now Shireen, I believe, is at the Night Fort with her mother. Farther along the wall. So I can see that going down that way. But I don't think that that's how Jon's going to get resurrected here. One of the other theories is that Lady Stoneheart will show up. Like, she'll finish, Jon will be dead for a while in this Winds of Winter. Lady Stoneheart will finish her business in the Riverlands with the Freys, and she'll then ride north to the wall. And in a sort of redemptive moment, making up for how she mistreated Jon his whole life, she'll pass Beric's kiss of life to Jon, and then she'll perish again, and Jon will be resurrected. I don't see that happening at all. I don't see Lady Stoneheart getting near the wall. I do see Lady Stoneheart passing the kiss of life to somebody else, though, and sacrificing herself. I think that the reason she sent Brienne to bring Jaime to her is she wants Jaime to go get Robb Stark's body and head and bring them to her. I think Lady Stoneheart wants Robb's body, wants his head, wants the head sewn back on, and then she's going to give the kiss of life over to Robb, and we'll have a Robb Zombie. Pun intended, I guess. Now, before you go, that sounds like just the craziest, wildest, stupidest theory I've ever heard. Martin has done some legwork in the books for a potential Robb Zombie to show up. In Daenerys' visions in the House of the Undying, in the Clash for Kings, she sees Robb Stark sitting, I think, on a throne or something, with a wolf's head, and the wolf's eyes are staring at her and following her as she's walking by. So she's seen kind of a post-Red Wedding, like resurrected Robb Stark, but kind of a crazy one with Grey Wind's head still on his body. Jon, in a dream, I believe in Dance with Dragons, is standing atop the wall, dressed all in black armor, which the theory is that that's the Valyrian steel armor currently in Euron's possession. That Jon will get that somehow, and he'll wear that. And Jon is atop the wall, and there's hordes of zombies, of whites, other resurrected whites coming. And Jon's casting them all down, and there's Dolorous Ed and many of his brothers on the Night's Watch among them. And there's an undead zombie Robb as well that Jon cast down in his dream. So we've had a couple of instances where Martin has hinted at a undead Robb. Now just think of how crazy that would be if Lady Stoneheart does manage to get Robb's body, Robb's head, sews the head back on, passes a kiss of life over, she dies, we have an undead Robb leading an army, and then we have an undead Jon leading another army, and both coming head to head, clashing over who's going to control Winterfell. That would be pretty wild to see undead Jon versus undead Robb. That would be crazy. But there's things in play that could make that a possibility. But anyway, back to Jon being resurrected. Another theory is that, well, Jon will do what Varamir Sixskins has done in the past, and that is he's going to go warg into Ghost. Because if you notice, his last word was Ghost as he was dying. Which, if you go back to the Red Wedding, unlike the TV show, where Robb's last word on the TV is Mother, in the books it's Greywind. So if you weren't aware, Robb Stark actually dies twice at the Red Wedding. He dies when his body is killed, and then he dies inside Greywind when they kill Greywind after. So to make the Red Wedding even a little more tragic, Robb actually dies twice there. So the belief is that Jon is in Ghost. And how long can he stay in Ghost? Will we get a Jon Ghost POV chapter? That would be just fantastic. Because Martin has played around with this idea of Direwolf as a POV. We've gotten a little taste of it in some Arya chapters, because Arya wargs into Nymeria when she's sleeping all the time. In the show, they made the decision to have only Bran have the ability to warg. But in the books, all the Stark children can warg, which is what Robb tries to do just instinctively when he's dying at the Red Wedding. What Jon is trying to do here instinctively, Arya wargs into Nymeria all the time when Arya's asleep and she doesn't even realize she's doing it. And think of how powerful that makes Arya as a warg. She's in Braavos. Nymeria is running around the Riverlands with her wolf pack hunting Freys. Arya wargs into her almost every night while she's sleeping from an entire continent away. And then, of course, Bran. We've seen Bran warg into, like, Summer and stuff. So Martin has played around with little snippets of Direwolf POVs. So it would be pretty cool if we get a full-blown Jon inside Ghost chapter. And how much of Jon will remain behind when he leaves Ghost? How much of Ghost will come with Jon into Jon when Jon finally makes it back into his body? Because on the TV show, it was mopey, kind of mopey emo Jon, and then there was undead, even mopier, even emo-ier Jon. I think in the Resurrected Jon in the books is going to be a bit different than pre-killed Jon. Just even if it's just part of Ghost's personality coming into him. And I'm really curious to see what that's going to be like. So one of the theories is, like I mentioned, that Jon might instead, he can only remain in Ghost for so long, that he might warg into another alive person and just like take their body by force, because he'll kind of have no choice. I don't buy that theory only because, one, that's out of character for Jon to do that to somebody, and two, it kind of negates, like, what's the point of R plus L equals J if Jon doesn't end up back in his own body? Because R plus L equals J requires J to actually still be there. And while spirit-wise, Jon might be there, but if he's in somebody else's body, that's not the body of from R and L. And I'm saying R plus L equals J only for those who may not know, who, if you haven't watched the TV series or read the books yet, I don't want to spoil that reveal, which hasn't actually happened in the books, but it's expected. So it seems pointless to have an R plus L equals J if he doesn't end up back in his own body. I can see him temporarily warging into another person, even just out of desperation for a very brief time, if he has to come out of Ghost. Like, what if Melisandre tries to sacrifice Ghost as some sort of ritual, realizing Jon might be in there, not realizing she'd end up killing Jon a second time like Robb was killed? Who knows? Okay, here's how I want the resurrection to go down. No matter what else Melisandre or anybody else might be trying, here's what I want. I want, as the others move closer and closer to the wall, any of the dead bodies that haven't been burned yet at the wall are going to wake up. They're going to become whites. So I want Jon's body to be taken over by an other and animated by the others. So dead Jon is going to wake up as other controlled, White Walker controlled white Jon with blue eyes and everything. And then Jon will then leap from Ghost into his body and then basically fight against the presence of the others and wrestle control of his body back and then take it back away from the others. And then that's how he rejoins his body. So that it'll be the others who resurrect it, because Melisandre and the others can't, and then he'll just take it back. And just can you imagine that chapter? The chapter opens, Jon is inside Ghost. Ghost might be dying because he can't hold Jon in too much longer. And then all of a sudden, Jon's body on the table over there just pops up on its own, eyes like glowing blue. And then Jon leaps into it, and then has that internal struggle inside the body to take it back. I mean, just imagine how amazing that chapter would be if that's what happens. And that's what I want to happen, because that would just be like the coolest way for Jon to come back. Yeah, it would just be, I can't really think of a better way I'd like that scene to go down than for it to be something like that. And again, it all depends upon, like, where is Jon's body? How long has he been dead? Do they have him on ice in the cellars? Or does all this happen very quickly? You know, he might only be dead like half a day and this stuff goes down. Who knows? That's one of the big unanswered questions that we'll eventually find out. Imagine if Jon is dead the entire book and only brought back at the in the last chapter. That would not be good if Martin makes us wait that long. Yeah, I don't want to wait that long for Jon to come back. So hopefully Jon is resurrected early on in the Winds of Winter. It all depends upon how Martin's got the kind of plot playing out. Does Stannis retake Winterfell, and then a resurrected Jon comes down, leaving behind his Lord Commander ship because he's been killed, he's no longer Lord Commander, and then bends the knee and rises as undead Jon Stark? Does Stannis lose and undead Jon leads a horde of wildlings down and sacks Winterfell and takes it from Ramsay? Because unlike the show, Ramsay is in a much more precarious position in the books than in the show. In the show, Ramsay's like ruling Winterfell with an iron fist. But he's got Mance and the Spearwives are there plotting against him. Manderly is there plotting against him, ready to strike. There's a lot more lined up against Ramsay in the books than there is in the show. And I really just can't see Ramsay beating Stannis in a battle. I just don't see it. It would be the cold that does Stannis in to me, rather than Stannis wouldn't go out like that, losing to Ramsay. But we'll see. Who knows what's going to happen? There's so many possibilities. We could end up with an undead Stannis, even, at some point. That's kind of my thoughts about Jon Snow's resurrection. There's lots of theories, lots of good ideas, but I like the one I want to see the most is the others raising the body up as a white and then Jon taking it back. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I want to hear from you now in the comments. Do you have a particular Jon Snow resurrected theory of how it's going to happen, or when it's going to happen, or who's going to accomplish it? Because I'd love to hear. I mean, all this stuff it's fun to speculate about all these things. That's one of the cool things about A Song of Ice and Fire, the way it's written. Martin gives you so much information, so many possibilities, that you can have endless discussions about what might happen while Martin does his slow writing until eventually getting each book out. So that's my Jon Snow resurrected theories. If you want more info on that Robb as a zombie theory, Joe the Magician, just search Joe the Magician on YouTube. He has a fantastic, one of the best like a Song of Ice and Fire channels on YouTube. And he has a whole video, I think, where he goes into this, like Robb being resurrected. Like that's Lady Stoneheart's goal. So really cool. He's got tons and tons of great theories. He's some of my favorite Song of Ice and Fire theories I've heard on a lot of subjects. He's one of the people who kind of comes up with them. And I really like the idea. There's enough there that we could see a Robb Zombie. And again, imagine undead Jon versus undead Robb for supremacy in this dark house. That'd be quite cool. But that's it for tonight. I will look for you in the comments. Let me know what your theories are, and I'll definitely be responding. I am Charles, this is SirBookSage. Happy reading.